Hello, good evening, everyone. Coming up tonight, National Petroleum Authority revokes the licenses of 30 oil marketing companies for non-compliance with rules and regulations on acquisitions and maintenance of their licenses. Ahead, we will engage communications manager of the authority. Also in this bulletin, World Bank warns Ghana and some sub-Saharan African countries that government debt distress would have large adverse spillovers on growth and financial stability. Plus, boost to Ghana's automobile industry. Over 4,700 locally assembled vehicles sold since 2019. Ahead, we will hear from the outgoing Minister of Trade and Industry.
It has invested an amount of over $8 million to acquire this facility to ensure that under one roof, the ecosystem to support this industry is present and provide.
I am Pious Kojo Backah. This is 30 Minutes of Business Life. Grateful you could stay on straight to our very first story tonight. The National Petroleum Authority has revoked the licenses of some 30 oil marketing companies. In a statement released by the authority, the action was taken due to non-compliance by the OMCs with rules and regulations on acquisitions and maintenance of their licenses. Now, the NPA went further to warn the general public against engaging the said companies. Joining us for more on this is the communications manager for the NPA, Mohammed Abdul Kudus, to throw more light on this developing story. Grateful, Mohammed, you could join us on Business Live. Why this action by your authority in the first place?
Thank you very much, and good evening to you. Good evening to your cherished listeners. As we stated in our release, it is basically for non-compliance to our attempts and our rules. As it were, the licenses are normally granted based on the expectation of meeting some conditions. As and when we determine that a condition or sets of conditions have not actually been followed to the letter by an OMC, the needed action is taken. In this particular instance, it warranted the revocation of the licenses, and that is why those licenses have actually been revoked. And we owed the public the duty to let them know so that nobody goes to do business with them, unless, of course, you would want to do it at your own rate.
In your publication, you did state that these companies are losing their license for non-compliance and market rules. Can you give us some examples here?
Oh, okay. So one has to do with the non-payment of license fee, for example. The license comes with a certain fee. And when the license is being granted, it is granted with the assumption that the fees would actually be paid. If the fee is not paid, the license can actually be revoked. If you look again at, I think, Section 12 of the MPA Act, it specifies a certain regulation that a body corporate or an individual would need to meet to be able to qualify to have the license. And so at any time that we determine that any of the set rules or conditions have not actually been adhered to, or what has actually been reported to us does not turn out to be the case, we have that capacity to get back at you and revoke your license. And mind you, before we do that, we normally would write to you and then give you the opportunity to defend your case. And all of these OMCs have actually been duly written to, and the revocation of their licenses is actually in order.
So what becomes the next line of action in terms of recovering the more than 400 million cedis owed by some of these OMCs?
Oh, okay, so that is relative to the news item from what you got from my chief executive. That is not necessarily the same as this particular one, because there have been different reasons for the revocation of the individual licenses. So it is not the same as in all of them necessarily owing. But we have a team that is actually working on this. And any OMC that owes us any amount of money, even when the license is revoked, you still would have to pay the money, or else the necessary actions will be taken. I can tell you on authority that we've actually made a very good account on tracing some of these OMCs to recover the money that they owe the authority. And we certainly are not going to relent on that. We'll continue to go after them. And where there's the need for us to take them to the law court to actually have our say, then we probably will do that. But like I said, it is not all of them who are necessarily being revoked for owing the authority one form of money or the other. But obviously, there are some within the industry who owe the authority. And the team is actually on standby to get at all of the necessary players within the industry to get the money that they owe the National Petroleum Authority.
All right, Mohammed, I did see in the publication you issued the names of managers and their addresses. Why so?
Obviously, without having to try to pretend to be a lawyer, you know, companies can be sued, and as and when there's a need to lift the veil to get to individuals within the company to, as it were, be able to still get back your money, we'll certainly be doing that. And so we're trying to put the notice out there that whatever that it takes for us to retrieve a dime that any of them owe the National Petroleum Authority, we certainly would not leave that to chance, and we would do whatever that is legally possible to take any money that any of the companies owe the authority.
Are we going to see more of these measures by your authority in terms of bringing sanity to the industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is actually not the first of the publications that you've seen from us. So it is not the business of just probably calling them to the boardroom and having a discussion with them. But we only not also revoke it, but we revoke it and put a same to the public. So the public is able to measure the activity that the National Petroleum Authority is attaching to all of this. And so this is certainly not going to be the last, as and when we feel that there is a need to crack the whip or to pull any of the players to the table to account for whatever it owes the authority, we would certainly do that. So certainly this would not be the last, and to continue to sanitize and do whatever that we can to bring a certain sanity within the industry.
All right. Abdul Kudus, before you take leave of us, there was some recent report which suggested that some of the OMCs were not pricing right in terms of the first pricing window of this month. Has that come to your attention?
Yes, I think that we've been privy to a particular write-up by one of our friends within the space who suggested that per their mathematics and calculation, some of the OMCs or a lot of the OMCs were actually not pricing right within this particular window. Some of the assumptions they've made, we're unable to verify that. And let's have it clear that it is a deregulated market where the mathematics for the determination of the pricing at the pump varies from one OMC to the other. First of all, not all of the OMCs don't charge the same margin, okay, so that you would be able to tell that once this company sells this and charges this, the other company must necessarily sell this. We don't. Another one is the supplier's premium, the intervening variables that actually help in bringing the product from overseas to the country in determining the ex-refinery price. They are varying because they don't normally all go to the same place and pick it. And even when you are picking, the circumstance that under which you are able to transport the product varies. So it is not a uniform situation out there. And I realized again that the analysis looked at the spot price of the value of the CD instead of the forward rate. Because in the pricing that the BDCs actually arrived at, they don't look at the spot rate as it were, the price at which they go to get the dollar from the bank. They use the forward rate, meaning the anticipated rate of the dollar. Really, okay, by the time they would have been going back again for their product. And so when you use the spot rate, you wouldn't actually get it right. But like I said, they've made certain assumptions. We are unable to verify the assumptions. But fortunately, my economic regulation department regularly does its projection before the opening of a particular window. And prior to the opening of this particular window, the projections that the economic regulation department made relative to the information that they have for the within the market, what we saw at the pump actually did not depart at all from what we anticipated. So from our end, there's nothing like not pricing well or trying to shortchange the consumer. And I think that we've given this assurance, and I would want to repeat it, that one of the mandates of the National Petroleum Authority is to protect the consumer, and we would not relent on this at all.
In a minute, quickly, beyond this statement, are we going to see your men at the various outlets, I mean those that you've revoked their licenses, to kind of ensure that they do not operate? Obviously.
We have offices across the regions, and we are regularly on the field monitoring these outlets. And so whoever decides to flout the directive from the National Petroleum Authority will certainly be doing it at its own risk.
Okay.
And the authority would not relent at all in having to come after an OMC who decides to flout what we have directed.
Mohammed Abdul Kudus, grateful for your time here on Business Live. He is the communications manager of the National Petroleum Authority. Let's stay a while longer on this developing story, and we are joined via Zoom, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleiman for more. Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, grateful you could join us on Business Live. I'm pretty sure you've listened and, of course, seen the publication by the authority. Your initial reaction?
Thank you very much. Good evening to you, Pious, and good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners in Ghana and across the globe. Thank you for having me. Yes, I listened to the manager,
communications manager,
Abdul Kudus, what he has explained, and I think it's very much clear. And it's good that, I listened to him because when I heard the publication, my initial reaction would have been that, is it not too harsh? We are coming to a market, we are looking for a kind of competition in the market, and so one would have ordinarily said that, the larger the number of OMCs, the better the competition, especially if they are all active. However, if we have a number of OMCs numbering over 100 plus, and more than 50% of them, closer to 50% of them are inactive in the business, I think it's really wise that such an action be taken, and so that they are minded. And I'm also very much, I was also very happy to hear that. Another thing that I wanted to take the NPA on was the fact that I wanted to find out whether they have really engaged these players very well, before taking this action. And from what Mr. Mohammed just, elaborated, I think they've engaged them extensively, and maybe they've given them some timeline to be able to meet their obligations. And it looks like, I'm sure they are not, or they were not able to meet it. And that's how come they took that action. So for me, as a pundit, I see it as, I wouldn't see it as a negative move. I think, though, like I said, superficially, I would have seen it as very harsh. But upon listening to the explanation, I think it is the right way to go. And so that if those players are minded, they could form a kind of, they can join forces together. Because Pious, after we deregulated the market, and a lot of players actually came up, and we had the OMCs numbering up to over 140 plus. That was very good for the market, for competition-wise. However, it didn't take a longer time for them to realize that, no, it is competitive. It's a capital-intensive, undertaking. And so a lot of them didn't live up to the expectations. So I'm not surprised that a lot of them laid back and they were not able to meet their, obligations. In this case, renew their licenses and to operate actively in the downstream business.
Very quickly, 30 of them have been affected. How do you think this will help sanitize the industry? And of course, would that also be a deterrent to existing OMCs?
Oh, yes. So I think it's a positive move. Like I said, it's indeed a positive move. In fact, knowing NPA, I've stated NPA, especially in recent years, and I think they did creditable well in terms of how the ability to sanitize the environment, the market, especially the downstream, and when it comes to compliance with respect to, especially apart from this renewal of licenses, I was much particular about safety bridges, and I think they are much on the ground to be able to ensure that I mean, this kind of bridges are not, breaches are not continued in perpetuity. And so I see that as a positive move. And also it's good that they serve that kind of a warning to marketers, to other individuals who might be able to, who also be mindful in terms of dealing with that. Mind you, because they are the regulators, while they are protecting the consumers, they also have the interests of OMCs at heart. So I'm sure taking these actions is actually to the best interest of the entire market in totality, so that once the market is sanitized and we know how many active members are actually into the business, then I think that should be a way to go. And like I mentioned first, my recommendation to the affected OMCs will be that they can team up together. There's no problem if they are not able to meet up the capital required to be able to champion the business because it's becoming very competitive. Why don't they join forces together, to be able to compete into the market? Because at the end of the day, the more competition, the better the pricing at the pumps. And for a consumer, if there's much competition, I think that's much, much, much better.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, for your time here on Business Live, helping us appreciate the development there. Yeah. Let's move away from that and touch on this story. The World Bank is warning Ghana and some sub-Saharan African countries that government debt distress would have large adverse spillovers on growth and financial stability, where banks are heavily exposed to foreign sovereign debt. Now, this according to its January 2023 Global Economic Prospects Report. The following report has more.
The World Bank cautioned Ghana, Kenya, and Sierra Leone in particular against the adverse effects of the financial challenges on their economies due to their worsening debt situation. It stressed that increased non-concessional borrowing in the sub-Saharan African region could cause a sharp rise in the debt service cost if global interest rates keep rising. Ghana is already undergoing a debt restructuring, which has come under opposition, particularly from holders of Government of Ghana bonds, whose bonds are being restructured. This is a prerequisite for a necessary International Monetary Fund support program. The World Bank further said the baseline projections remain subject to multiple downside risks amid continuing uncertainty about the war in Ukraine, the degree of global and domestic monetary tightening that will be needed to subdue inflation, among others. It concluded that commodity prices may drop further than assumed if growth in major economies falls short of projections.
You're still watching Business Life with me, Pious Kojo Backah. Still to come, boost to Ghana's automobile industry as over 4,700 locally assembled vehicles sold since 2019. Ahead, we will hear from the outgoing Trade and Industry Minister.
Invested an amount of over $8 million to acquire this facility to ensure that under one roof, the ecosystem to support this industry is present and provided.
Welcome back from that break. More than 4,700 locally assembled vehicles have been sold for both local market and export to other African markets since the development of an automobile policy in Ghana. This is a positive achievement from some of the major automobile giants who began assembling in the country, namely VW, Toyota, and Katanka. This was revealed by the Automobile Assemblers Association of Ghana in a ceremony to inaugurate the Automotive Development Council. Here's a report. The Automobile Development Council is part of the flagship initiatives by the government under the Ministry of Trade and Industry to support the assembling of vehicles in the country to support local job creation. According to outgoing Minister for Trade and Industry, Alan Tremantain, government is keen on creating the enabling environment for the sector. He believes the establishment of the council couldn't have come at a better time after government invested about $8 million into the facility.
Ghana is serious about becoming the manufacturing hub for auto, at least in West Africa. And that is why government has invested an amount of over $8 million to acquire this facility to ensure that under one roof, the ecosystem to support this industry is present and provided.
According to the president of the Automotive Assemblers Association of Ghana, Jeffrey Opong Pepra, this is a strong indication that Ghana's automobile industry has come to stay, since industry players have so far sold more than 4,700 vehicles that were locally assembled.
Since the introduction of the Ghana automotive industry, that is the latter part of 2019, 2020, COVID, and then I said in my speech, to date we have 4,700 vehicles already assembled and pushed into the Ghanaian market, as well as also some gone for export to neighboring countries such as Ivory Coast and Senegal. So these are the numbers we have done so far, and this constitutes over 9.7% of our new car market numbers. Because from statistics, Ghana, we have a new car market or a car park of about 12,000 at the moment, but we have already produced or assembled 4,700 units.
The minister also sworn into office the 29 members of the council drawn from various stakeholder groups. Amarula, produced in South Africa, is a common alcoholic beverage that has gained recognition around the world. The main ingredient for the well-acclaimed beverage is the marula plant, which is also known as the elephant tree or marriage tree. But did you know that the marula plant is a common plant found in the northern part of Ghana? Here's Martina Bugri with more.
The marula plant is native to the 5 regions of the north. Over the years, the leaves and the plants have been used largely to feed animals. Even though it has great economic potential, little has been done to tap its benefit. It has remained a plant just at the community level, but countries like Burkina Faso and South Africa are exporting the fruit and its final produce. Meet Professor Pious Kojo Backah, Project Lead and Director of the West Africa Center for Water, Irrigation and Sustainable Agriculture of the University for Development Studies, who talks about the economic and nutritional benefits of the marula plant.
It gives those who consume it a lot of nutrient benefits in terms of minerals, vitamins, and it has antioxidant properties, as well as also giving us some medicinal uses that we can use it for in our local communities. Aside that, there are some economic benefits which are not well explored in our part of the world, especially its use in the brewery industry for the production of what is commonly called amarula, which is produced in South Africa and then exported widely across the globe. The seeds are actually also used in some oil extraction that's it's used in many industrial and pharmaceutical companies. It can actually be used to support our economic growth, especially in the north. And so it is an export crop or tree product, but the less has been said about it.
He said the tree can be cultivated in large quantities and it takes just 7 years to mature.
The problem is that at first the local people didn't know the benefits of the tree, and that is why we are undertaking this climate resilience project, to be able to bring to fore the benefits of the tree and its uses in the community. And to propagate it is easily done by seed, and we are trying to see whether we can do it through cuttings in the laboratory to be able to increase the population in our society.
Wawisa UDS is currently running a project in the Kombungo district of the northern region to sustain the tree. Would government pay attention to this promising export and a tree in the northern sector? For Joy News, Martina Bugri reporting.
And that's it for Business Live for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Always a pleasure serving you. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye-bye.